You are now listening to The Perfect Prana with Kyah Ann. What's poppin'? What's good? You're listening to The Perfect Prana show on 88.1 FM WCRX, Saturdays at 10 a.m., Sundays at 9 a.m. Also available on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube, where I post extended versions. If you love yoga, this is the perfect place to be. And if you do not love yoga, this is still the perfect place to be, because I have the usual Up with the Yoga News, where I talk about what's going on in the world, how it relates to yoga, Yoga Hills, where I bring on a very special guest and talk to them about their practice, and the Weekly Wellness Challenge, where I have been following the 8 limbs of yoga. But before we get into all of that, let's center ourselves. Let's take this moment to go inward, to focus on our breath, focus on our prana. Prana translating to breath, as in the breath of life, our life energy source. Lots of translations, but no matter what you're doing, you're sitting in the car, you're sitting on the couch, you're laying in bed, you're walking in the park, just take this moment to lengthen out your spine. If your feet are on the ground, ground your feet down. If you're sitting down, ground your sit bones. Send energy all the way from your tailbone to your crown and reach the crown of your head toward the sky. Create space between your shoulders and your ears and lengthen your neck. And breathe deeply and fully into your belly, all the way up to your collarbone, and hold at the top. And exhale dramatically with a loud sigh, like inhale to fill up your belly like a balloon, and hold at the top. And then take an even longer exhale, pushing out all the air. Deep, smooth inhale through your nose, into your belly, past your rib cage, all the way up to your chest. And take an even longer exhale, expelling what you do not need, leaving no air behind. Inhale, letting the breath travel up your spine, sitting up nice and tall, remaining the length in your body. And then exhale, let out the sigh, like expelling everything. Let your breath come back to a steady rhythm. Let's get on with the show. Yoga news: why Alec Baldwin called Paul McCartney an a-hole during yoga class. So basically, Alec was recently on a podcast doing an interview, and his yoga days came up. Apparently, he used to practice yoga with Paul McCartney and other people, and he said that Paul was a show-off, that he would do a headstand or handstand before he left class. He had all these yoga skills, and he was very slim. And one time he did this handstand and then left class and was like, oh, I have to go do whatever. And Alec looked at him and called him an a-hole, essentially. Nobody likes to show off, for real. Like, people get annoyed with people showing off, or like, you know, that one random person in the yoga class doing this crazy inversion or this crazy pose while everybody else is doing this. It's like, well, should you do that in a yoga class, or should you just keep that to your own practice, or go to a yoga class where that's being taught and that's like the goal of the yoga class? You know, I don't know. You know, on one hand, I'm like, it's not my job, it's not your job or anybody's job to protect anybody else's ego. It's not your job to even protect their concentration. Like, yoga is meant to help us go inward, and yoga is meant to help us be less distracted by the external world. If we're really living our yogi way, then like what somebody else is doing over there, I shouldn't let that distract me, and I should keep being into my practice. But then I also, the perspective of the practitioner, should I be doing things that might be obviously distracting to the class and obviously showing off to the class? You never know, because like what you do is completely normal for you. You just never know how others might react to that or view that. So it's like you could be completely innocent in the matter. Like, this is just normal to me. This is what I normally do. So how could I know that it was going to be distracting or triggering for that person? Like, it's so easy to offend people. It's just one of those things, like intention matters. There have been times where I've been annoyed or triggered or like, oh my gosh, when there's that one person that, everybody's doing a wide-legged forward fold. The teacher cued for that. And then you have that one person to go into a headstand and you're like, oh my God, here they go. I don't get bothered by that anymore because, again, it was something where I had to like look into within myself, like, why am I distracted by that? Why does that bother me? Am I jealous? Like, you know what I'm saying? And yeah, it's important to kind of just look at why what bothers you, and then to be honest with yourself about it. But should people do that? I don't know. I can't be the people police. I try not to, at least especially when I'm teaching a class, I try not to. But yeah, when I'm teaching a class, I don't like to do my fool out abilities and like, no. Because to do certain things for me takes extreme focus. So how can I focus on doing a posture or whatever, or a movement that's extremely hard, and focus on teaching at the same time? I guess I've moved more in the direction of being like, if that's what you want to do, then do it. Now, I do think there is certain etiquettes, like during a time where it's meant to be quiet, like during Shavasana or like a seated meditation or whatever, then we should be quiet during those times. Everybody should have their eyes closed anyways during Shavasana. I'm gonna say should, but most people have their eyes closed anyways during Shavasana. But even if there is sound that we're not causing, we shouldn't be causing any noises or doing anything extra that could disturb anybody's peace, even though you're not responsible for their peace. But it's a yoga class. But for the most part, I'm kind of on the side of the practitioner that is doing the absolute most on the yoga class, because it's like, if that's what you want to do and that's in your practice, then like we need to allow space for that. There's space for people that don't do the absolute most and can't do the absolute most. And then there also needs to be space for the people that can and that are trying to progress beyond where they're at right now in their practice. So yeah, they're doing handstands and all types of crazy yoga postures, but good for them. That's inspiring. We have to make space and be tolerant of everybody. The fact that Alec Baldwin called Paul McCartney an a-hole for doing that is funny, but they're probably like friends and had a rapport, but it honestly just speaks more to where he was at in his practice. And he expressed that like, he was always showing up, and he said in the interview, he said he was always showing us up with his physical skills. So it was obvious he was comparing himself, which is also not very yogi. So it's like, don't compare yourself. Just focus on your own practice. Go inward. That's the whole goal, at least. Yoga Heals. This week's Yoga Heals, Camille Levi, a yoga teacher that's been practicing since the mid-90s. She offers classes to the community and welcomes everybody, regardless of their body type or level of experience. She teaches students awareness of their body, mind, and spirit through meditation, artful alignment, creative sequencing, and dynamic choreography. She teaches a mix of yoga between Hatha, Ashtanga, Vinyasa, Bikram, and sprinkles in a little ballet and karate. I'm so happy to have Camille with us this week. Let's get on with the conversation. Hey, Camille. Thank you. How are you doing?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm well. But thank you so much, Camille, for coming on to the Perfect Prana Show. I'm so blessed to be talking with you, and I'm happy to have you here. I always start off with a question for all of my guests. When did you start practicing yoga, and why do you still practice yoga today?
Okay. Well, it's interesting. I kind of fell into yoga. Wasn't like I was consciously seeking it. I was at a athletic center that my kids were invited to a birthday party. And while they were at the birthday party, the center allowed all the parents to participate in something at the athletic center. You can work out or you can go play tennis and, et cetera. So there was a yoga class going on. And I said, okay, I'll take that. And I went in there and it was Ashtanga yoga. And, I had a pretty good, background. I had done martial arts. I had done dance, but I was getting into these poses and this pretzel-like, positions. And I'm like, what is this? What is going on? What have I gotten into? All the other ladies in the class seemed to be able to do these poses effortlessly, and I was struggling. And then we laid down for Shavasana. And I was like, oh, this is different. And I felt this euphoric relaxation that I had never felt before, and I was hooked. And so I started going more regularly. I stuck with the Ashtanga class. Was able to as time went on to get into the poses easier and easier, and just really enjoyed it. And just really enjoyed that mixture of exercise, of stretching, of relaxing, of breathing. It just seemed to be something that really resonated with me. And so over the years, I've done Hatha, I've done the Ashtanga, I've done Bikram, I've done restorative, different modalities just to experiment. And, so it's kept me interested. And then, so why do I still do it? I still do it because it is fulfilling, it is enriching, it is relaxing, it is restoring, it is keeping me healthy, keeping me flexible, and keeping me young.
First of all, it is really cool that you said you fell into yoga. Shout out to all the fitness centers and the gyms and any place that makes yoga available and introduces yoga to people, because that is how a lot of us access yoga. So, I really appreciate the classes like that. A lot of people are like, what am I going to go to a yoga studio for? But it is intriguing when you're at a gym or you're at some type of center of some sort and you're like, what are they doing? Let me join in. So that is a beautiful, beautiful meeting of yoga, if you will. I wanted to ask you, what led you into teaching?
And I hadn't thought about teaching because I wasn't sort of the perfect yogi. I couldn't do all the postures perfectly. I couldn't, I wasn't a star in the class. I would call myself always the second row of students, not a novice, but, not a star where I can be, demoing and showing other people how they should do a posture. But I read a couple of very interesting articles in a yoga journal one month. One article talked about the fact that you can't do all the postures doesn't mean that you can't teach the postures. And that a lot of times the individuals who can do a posture very easily may not be the best teacher, because that person may not understand the difficulty of other people trying to get into that posture. So that was one article. The other article I read was about a teacher who was 90 years old. And I'm like, whoa, if she can still teach, then maybe there's a chance that I can teach. I'm currently 70 years old. I've been certified since 2018. I've enjoyed teaching. My own practice has been enhanced dramatically by teaching. And I feel that I can express the postures and the breathing techniques and the spiritual side of yoga in a way that resonates with students of all abilities. So I really, really enjoy it.
Did you ever feel like you transitioned into a star student or somebody that could be in the front row, or kind of just more confident? And could you just talk a little bit about what that transition was like?
I feel yoga much more from the inside out now. I stay away from the mirror. I really want my alignment, my breathing, my lines of energy. I feel those inside of my body. And so how I look, maybe from a yoga journal pose perspective, isn't as important to me as how I feel within my body.
Good. I'm glad that we talked about just the fact that you want to help serve individuals of all ability levels. Could you talk more about your mission or your philosophy as a yoga teacher, and just in life, that something you keep at the forefront of your mind on a daily basis?
I really believe in the healing power of yoga. I think that all of us need healing, because we're in a society that traumatizes us, that belittles us, that stresses us out. And therefore, we all need some level of being able to step into our best self spiritually, mentally, physically. And I feel that yoga does that for people, especially for Black females. We are not listened to as much, especially in the medical industry. So things that bother us, things that concern us, we don't maybe get the attention that we need. And like I said, I think all of us to some extent have been traumatized. And I do have certification in trauma-informed yoga. I have certification in prenatal and postpartum yoga. So I want to really enhance that ability and that knowledge within us to understand how we can have yoga expand that life force, expand that energy, calm the mind, release tensions, release stress, so that we can become our best selves. So I really believe in that healing power of yoga. I really do. I myself am a cancer thriver. I obviously get the pharmaceuticals for the treatments, but the side effects I have handled almost exclusively with my yoga practice, by building the energy, fortifying my body, relaxing my body. I believe I would like everyone in the world to do yoga. I just do. I think if the world, I'd like to take yoga to the Senate, to the Congress. I mean, I feel if we can just all do yoga, we would be so much better as human beings. But that's my soapbox for the moment.
No, I've been exactly where you're at, because it's just like when I've experienced such benefits with myself, I'm like, everybody needs to experience this. Everybody needs to have this. Before we go, I'm going to ask you to cue us through a quick pranayama, your breath of your choice. So, yeah.
I've been doing something recently that is a prana, also activation of the vagus nerve. So if I can cue through that. First, I'd like us to rub our hands together to really get some heat between our hands. Place your hands on both sides of your neck. Warm up those muscles. Now, tilt your head so that you're right ear gets close to your right shoulder. And take a nice big inhale. And exhale. Now remove your hands. Let the weight of your head stretch the left side of your neck. And with the same tilt of your head, I want you to inhale and rotate your head towards the ceiling. And exhale, rotate your head towards the floor. This is activating not just our prana, but it's also activating that vagus nerve. Inhale, rotate your head to the ceiling. And exhale, rotate your head to the floor. One more time. Inhale, rotate your head to the ceiling. And exhale, rotate your head to the floor. And take your first two fingers, place it on your temple, and push your head back up to neutral. Let's rub our hands together again. Let's place both our hands around our neck, get that warmth. Now have your left ear go to your left shoulder. Remove your hands and have the weight of your head stretch the right side of your neck. And inhale, rotate your head up towards the ceiling. And exhale, rotate your head down to the floor. One more time. Inhale, rotate your head up to the ceiling. And exhale, rotate your head down to the floor. And then take your two fingers on your temple and push your head back up to neutral. And take a nice cleansing breath. And I want to thank you so much for having me on your show.
Thank you, Camille. With that being said, namaste.
Namaste.
You're listening to The Perfect Prana Show on 88.1 FM WCRX, also available on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube, where I post extended versions. Follow me on Instagram at consistently Kyah, consistently spelled with a K, Kyah spelled Kyah. If you like yoga, you like me, you like my show, you want more of me, come to my yoga class at LA Fitness. You could drop in, or if you're a member, come practice with me. Wednesdays at 9:45, Saturdays at 11 a.m. The King Drive, LA Fitness, 3435 South King Drive. Weekly Wellness Challenge. Y'all, I didn't even put out an episode last week. So the last weekly wellness challenge that I did was pratyahara, sense of withdrawal. That means that we're getting into the next 3 limbs of yoga. So as I've been studying the 8 limbs of yoga, I've learned a lot and I've gained some new perspective that I'm like, some of this is hard to put into a challenge, because the first 5 limbs of yoga, yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, and pratyahara, and they are the disciplines of yoga, sadhana. They're the disciplines of yoga. The first 5 limbs are things that we do. The next 3 limbs are the attainments of yoga. Doing the first 5 and mastering those basically helps us to get to this state of mind for the next 3 limbs of yoga, which is concentration, meditation, and then this enlightenment. I don't know, because I can't really assign a challenge for things that happen to us, not things that we just do. It's like the state of mind comes from doing certain things, comes from getting the morals correct, getting the mind correct, and practicing these postures and getting stronger, getting cleaner, getting better relationships with people, and learning to be not distracted by the external world. And being like, nope, not gonna let that affect what's going on inside. Yeah, doing those things is what gets our mind to this place of where it can be concentrated and focused and enlightened. You get what I'm saying? I don't have a weekly challenge this week, okay? I don't. I want to go back to the beginning of the 8 limbs of yoga and do this again and start all over. But I don't have the energy or the space to do that right now, to be honest. I don't. Life is already challenging enough for me to be adding like self-improvement challenges on top of that, or like challenges to where I have to like think about myself too much. Like, no, I can't. I need to think about things that are due, not about building new habits or breaking new habits or this or that. Right now, I'm under fire. I need to get things done. So I don't have time for a weekly wellness challenge this week. So you be great. You do whatever feels good for you. Challenge yourself this week in the way that you need to be challenged, or don't, and take a rest. It's your vibe. Live my days with my goal in mind, essentially. And I guess that's the challenge. Like, you know, I don't know. Like, what concrete thing can I do to be like, okay, guys, we're gonna incite concentration and this and that? Like, I don't know. All the challenges leading up to this, to this limb of yoga that's what's supposed to help me concentrate and focus, is me making sure that things are in order, things are clean, making sure that my relationships are good and I'm honest with people, and I'm not stealing from people, and I'm not hurting people, and making sure that I'm doing my physical practice and that I'm getting stronger and more open and addressing imbalances. And yeah, so I feel like I want to go back to the beginning now that I know what I know now. Maybe I will recycle the 8 limbs of yoga and be like, okay, starting over from the top, since we got through the first 5 limbs, which is the disciplines. And that's what life is essentially like. It's like we might master, or we might feel like we've mastered this stuff, but then we're faced with new circumstances that test us in these areas. So yeah, I thought I mastered being honest. Like, I'm an honest, upstanding person. I'm honest. But then it's just like, then I'm faced with the situation that my honesty is tested with myself and with others. To be like, whoa, are you honest? Are you being honest? Are you being honest with yourself? I might think, my cleanliness is mastered. I mastered that. But then next thing you know, I'm looking up around my place and I'm like, stuff is everywhere. Everything is everywhere. I need to clean this. I need to clean that. And like, was that mastered? Like, the cleaning never stops. Everything just gets dirty, even without use, and it has to be cleaned. So that's the weekly wellness challenge. It's been real. It's been real. Before I go, let me leave you with a quote. And I actually got this quote from my dad's Facebook. He posted it, from Viktor Frankl. And the quote is, when a person can't find a deep sense of meaning, they distract themselves with pleasure. I'm saying all of this to say is, we don't want to feed our distractions. We want to feed our focus. And that's something to work toward, is how can I grow my focus, grow my concentration, and apply that to whatever I want to accomplish in life, instead of growing my distractions. So yeah, and part of that is finding a deep meaning, finding something to be passionate about, so that way we can grow our focus and grow it naturally. Because when you're passionate about something, you might be able to focus and you might be able to concentrate on it easier. But sometimes we have to be focused and concentrated in order to find what we're passionate about. Like, it's like, which came first, the chicken or the egg? I don't know. But but a life where we're able to concentrate, that is the life. It makes life so much easier when I'm like, I got a mission, I got a task, I got an objective, I can get it done. So thank you for tuning into the Perfect Prana show on 88.1 FM WCRX, Also available on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube, where I post extended versions. Y'all, I'm entering a new era, so things are going to be different this summer. And then after this summer, things are going to be really different. And we'll talk about that more later. But thank you so much for tuning in. The light within me bows to the light within you. Namaste.